maybe, do maybe. Parang money is yeah. Do maybe.
Welcome back to Moving Abroad 222 podcast. We are here every Thursday on our YouTube channel at 11:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We drop a new episode, and I am your host, Alay Bashun. Today we have an amazing guest. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited about our connection and our collab. Would you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Tamara Williams, but I go by Lover of Shades online. I am a former expat. I lived all around the world. I traveled by myself, lived by myself around the world, and I'm excited to get into this conversation because you know how we be talking, girl.
Yeah, yes, I already know. Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's start off by telling them where you were born.
Okay, so I'm originally from Oakland, California. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area. I lived throughout a few places throughout the Bay, but that's where I grew up. I'm a California girl through and through,
Love
thoroughbred,
it.
and I now live in the DMV area. So that's the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, in the basically by the nation's capital. That's where I live right now.
Okay, thank you for clarifying because
Yeah.
people always get so confused. They like the DMV. I'm like, y'all
E-
don't know what
even
that means.
me, even me before I moved over here, and although I went to school in Virginia and all that stuff, is like when people say the DMV, I'm like the Department of Motor Vehicles. Why would you say you from there? And they're like, no, girl, it's DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Okay. So now
Yeah,
y'all know for everybody watching, because a lot of people get confused. I always see in the comments and on other people pages, they like the DMV. So we had to clarify
yeah,
that. Okay,
yeah.
so could you tell us what countries have you lived in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I lived in four different countries on four different continents. So I lived in Prague, in Czech Republic, is now called Czechia. I still got to get used to that. I also lived in Ho Chi Minh City, aka Saigon. So that's in Vietnam. I lived in Cape Town, South Africa, and then I also lived in Medellin, Colombia.
Love it, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know what was life like before you decided to pack up and move abroad.
It was the standard millennial, you got told what to do. Like, you're going to go to college, you're going to go get you a good job, you're going to move up in the corporate world, you're going to hustle, 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 hustle. And I did all that shit, y'all. I did it all. I graduated from college. I went to college down in Virginia as well as Brooklyn. I worked in healthcare for a very long time up until the point that I left the country. And although it was cool, I just was very unsatisfied. I was living in New York. I lived in New York for a very long time before I moved down here. I lived in Brooklyn for like upward to 16 years.
Mm,
So I just was hustling. It's the hustle culture, and
yeah.
after a while, I just realized I'm like, this ain't it. This ain't it. And I was saying it for a while, but then like speaking to other people, especially like older folks, they're like, oh no, you just gotta like stick in there and you'll get what you want, blah, blah, blah. But no matter how much I was like moving up or doing whatever it is that I was doing, because I also did
Mhm.
like makeup on the side. So I would work at like Sephora, etc. Um, Tried many different things. I was just like, this ain't it. I just always had the dream to move abroad, live abroad, travel and see the world. And I was just burnt out. I was tired of corporate America. I was tired of corporate politics. I was tired of
Mm,
politics, period. I just felt like I was getting fed a dream that just wasn't just wasn't attainable. And not necessarily attainable to where like you couldn't actually do it, just like it wasn't attainable to where it was actually satisfying my soul. I'm like, I'm
mhm.
doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm still not satisfied. I just knew that there was more out there to life than just what they tell you, the
Absolutely.
bullshit here in the United States. So yeah.
Okay, so take us to that moment when you made that decision, when you were like, okay, I'm about to do this. I'm
Yeah.
about to pack. I'm about to.
Okay. It was all divine timing. I'm gonna be real, real, real with y'all. I was working in healthcare. I was working in a hospital in Brooklyn, New York, and I was working on like building up my credit, and I had built up my credit to a certain point to where I could get the Chase Sapphire card. So
Mm,
right around the time I got the Chase Sapphire cards, you know how them credit cards get you. They be like, oh,
yeah.
if you put a certain amount, if you put a certain amount of credit on your card, we'll give you all these extra points. So ironically, at that same time, South African Airways launched an inaugural flight from JFK, which is in New York, y'all, all the way down to Johannesburg, direct flight. And they were running a sale. Like normally before then, to fly out to South Africa, like you were spending like almost 2 bands, if not 2 bands. And they were running a special to where I want to say it was like $800. Like, yeah, about $800. And I just went ahead and leading up to that, I always wanted to like go somewhere. I always just went to the Caribbean, etc. But I always wanted to go like onto another continent, and I really wanted it to be Africa. I didn't want it to be Europe, which most Americans do. I was like, no, I really want to go to Africa. But what happens? You tell people you want to go, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go, and then it's time to go. And then all the excuses come. Oh, I ain't got no money. Oh, it's not gonna be safe. Yeah. Oh, it's da 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 da. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to go by myself. So what I did was I just hurried up and made the payment, like booked the trip for January. Right. Yeah, because it was like July out here in the States. So I booked it for January since it could be their summertime by the time I actually go. And I booked it in advance. So what we talking about, like 5-6 months in advance? Booked it in advance. And then I told everybody that I could, like, hey, I'm going to South Africa by myself, because one thing about me, I don't like to look stupid. So I told everyone purposely so I could make myself go, because I know that if I did not, I was not going nowhere. I was not going nowhere. I would have just took that L silently, okay? But I did that. And then ironically, right around that time, I had just got hired at NYU Medical Center, working in their corporate office. So I started that job, like open eyes wide open. And I'm like, okay, this job is going to be it, because like NYU in healthcare, NYU is kind of like a big pinnacle in New York City. Got there, y'all, hated it. Like literally like the first couple weeks into it, I'm like, this ain't gonna be it. Like I just knew, like my heart sunk. So January came and I'm getting nervous, more nervous as it's coming. But I was like, Tam, just use your common sense, reach out to people, make your arrangements, all that stuff. So I decided to stay in hostels while I was in South Africa, because I really just wanted to maximize my money and just see how far I could get. I went ahead and booked a rental car, and I went ahead and visited Johannesburg, Durban, and then Cape Town, like in that order. And then I went out there, y'all, and it changed my life. I was out there for like 2.5 weeks, and it changed my life, just how quickly my nervous system just calmed down, just how quickly I didn't feel like I had to look over my shoulder 24/7, just how quickly I could just relax. And then I also felt, by the end of that trip, I felt fully acclimated. Like I could literally live out here. I met so many people and they were like, oh, you should come back. Please come back. Have you ever considered living out here? Blah, blah, blah. And before then, I always had the mindset, like growing up, my parents didn't have no money. We didn't have no money like that. So I would watch Animal Planet. I would watch Discovery Channel, etc. And I was like, ooh, I want to go to all these places. But they just, in my mind, I'm like, you have to be a millionaire to go to these places. Or you have to have a shit ton of money to go. So that's what changed it for me. I'm gonna be honest with you, like literally going on that trip and going by myself. By the time I came back to New York, I became like real depressed, just because I'm like, this ain't it. Like it's like I had a taste of freedom, and then I'm coming back to like basically not, I don't want to say being in chains, because I'm not trying to insult, no heritage, no history, but it's just like the corporate world is a hamster wheel, and I felt like I'm re-entering the hamster wheel, and I'm like, this ain't it. Like I got a chance to get off the hamster wheel, and I got to figure out how to get back off this hamster wheel, because this is like literally killing my soul. So that's what started it for me.
Okay, so how long did you stay?
When I first went to, you talking about when I went to South Africa just to visit? About 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Yeah. Okay, so when you decided to actually move, where did you go? When you decided, like, okay, I did South Africa, I tried this out, I know I can do this. Where did you go, and how far apart was it from that time period to the time that you made a move?
Yeah, so I went to South Africa from January 3rd. It's my memory is so crazy, y'all. From like January 13th to about the 28th. I came
Mhm.
back and then I left the country permanent, like to move abroad permanently August 25th that same year.
That same year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
That
where did you
same year.
go in August? Where did you go in
Okay, so
August?
August, I first left to go to Europe because I actually was moving to Prague because my hustle when I was living abroad was TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a language teacher, but I had to get the certification and all that
Mhm.
jazz. So I went to TEFL school out in Prague, but when I first left, I did some traveling first. So I booked a one-way flight to Barcelona. So I went to Barcelona, I went to Madrid, and then I went to Lisbon. And then after that, that's when I finally like officially moved to Prague. So I stayed in Prague for about 3 months, 2.5 months. After that, I left and I did some, and also traveled around Europe while I was living in Prague. Like I was very strategic about how I was doing my stuff.
I
So
love it.
no matter where I was at, I always positioned myself in a place to where I could travel to the neighboring countries for cheap, or at least as cheap as I could possibly get it. So therefore, I could like knock all these countries off my checklist. So I was living in Prague for like about 2.5 months. After I left Europe, I did some traveling to Morocco and then Egypt because I always
Mm,
wanted to go. And then after that,
I
I
love
moved
it.
from, after that, and I'm taking my luggage with me everywhere, y'all. Like, I'm literally like packed for, I'm like, hey, I'm moving my life. I'm on the go. So after I left Cairo, I flew over to Phuket because I turned 30 at that time, and I said I always wanted to spend my 30th birthday in Thailand, more specifically Phuket. So I did it. And then after that, I moved to Saigon. So I lived in Saigon for about 3 months, and I was teaching. I had my TOEFL certification at that point. I was
Uh-huh.
teaching English, and I had me a time. I had me a time in Asia, in
I know
Asia,
you
y'all. So
did.
yeah, and then also while I was in Asia, I got to visit like neighboring countries, etc. But also got to go to Australia. So I went to go visit Australia, and then when I left Asia, I moved. I had to fly out of Bangkok, but I flew from Bangkok all the way to Johannesburg. And then
Mhm.
from Johannesburg, I moved to Cape Town. So I stayed in Cape Town for 3 months. And then after that, I moved to Medellin, Colombia. And, I stayed there for about 2.5 months. And then I came back to the States for a little bit, like just for about a month, just to kind of get my shit together. And then I finished doing my traveling. I went back to South America, but this time as a backpacker. And I backpacked throughout like Peru, Ecuador, back to Colombia, and then Panama, Costa Rica. Feel like I'm forgetting a country, and then I went back to the States. Yep.
I love it. Look at you. You was on an adventure,
Oh,
weren't you?
I was on the go. Like I was like every time I think I have to tell this story, I'm like I cannot believe I did all that shit in that bit of time. But I was outside, y'all.
I love it. The best place to be. Okay, so one of the main questions that I get and that most travelers or expats get
Hmm.
is, what do you leave and what do you take? So when you decided in August, like, okay, I'm getting up, I'm really doing this.
Hmm.
What did you keep? What did you get rid of? How did that
Yeah.
go as far as like your belongings?
So when I was moving out of my 1 bedroom apartment, so I tried to sell as much shit as I possibly could. Like I put the stuff to the side that I knew, like, okay, I cannot get rid of this no matter what, at least not right now. But I sold like all my furniture. I'm like, you can't take, oh, I'm not taking it with me abroad. So
Right.
like I sold all my furniture. You have to get very crucial and realistic about what you actually need. And
Mhm.
one of my biggest advice to travelers is like no matter how much you think, because I'm a planner, I am a planner,
Same.
but no matter
Same.
how much you plan, and you could probably attest to this, girl, no matter how much you plan, you still over planning, you still gonna overpack. y'all, like by the time I got down to everything, so I sold all my furniture, I sold all my non-essentials, and then like my essentials that I knew I needed, whether it was for sentimental value or it's just like, hey, I might need a family member to ship this to me wherever I'm at abroad. I basically put all that stuff in my uncle's house in Philly, and I just went ahead and left. By the time I left, I had like one big, I want to say it's like a 50-liter luggage roller set luggage. So I had
Mhm.
one big 50-liter luggage. I had a heavy like backpack. I had that with me, and then I had like a small, like a it's small to us, but basically a big purse. And that's what I left with. And y'all, it still was too much shit. It still was
Damn, it
too
still was
much
too
shit.
much.
Because it's one thing, as you know, it's one thing if you're like moving and you're going to be like in place somewhere. Like, okay, I'm moving to Prague, I'm staying in Prague, so it is what it is. But since I was doing so much country hopping and also like doing my side travels on the way, I was still get like every time I was leaving a country, I was leaving something behind because I'm like, I don't really need this. Like you realize we're very habitual creatures. Like the same, you tend to wear the same clothes. Like how many times you bought something, you're like, oh, I'm gonna wear it, and you don't ever wear it. Like you wearing the same clothes, you're doing whatever it is that you feel comfortable with. Like you have a routine, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. So
True.
as you're traveling, you just kind of realize, like, I'm carrying this around. I'm paying extra fees, extra luggage fees because my luggage is too heavy. I don't really need this shit for real. So let me just give it away or let me just leave it behind because I just need literally what I just need. What about you?
Exactly.
Have you had that realization, or was
Um,
your experience different?
well, we pretty much sold everything, including the house. So I got rid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I
Yeah.
am a shopper. I like to
Yeah.
dress. I like perfume. I like jewelry.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
it's been different. But see, I had to like get here and settle.
yeah.
Like because I think with me having
Yeah.
kids, my biggest thing is like, okay, it's cool. I can hop around, I can travel and stuff, but I have to have a base. And it might just be a
Yep.
tourist
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
It might just be a tourist thing too. Like it's like a security thing. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm not gonna be comfortable
Yeah.
if I'm too floaty, right? So it's like I have to have a base. And then
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
base, I can like buy things I need. But shit, I'm looking at all this shit like, okay, my time is coming to an end in Southeast Asia soon. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to get rid of some of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I got lights for the
Yeah.
podcast, big lights that I cannot like. I
Yeah.
I still don't know how this about to happen. We gonna figure that out.
You don't
Yoga
think you could
mats,
take it
just
with
all.
you?
Well, well, I don't have like the proper like this stuff is like from Lazada, so I don't have the proper things to carry it
Like the
basically.
luggage and stuff, yeah, to
Yeah, so
carry
that's
it.
the only thing
Mm-hmm.
about living abroad and consuming. So I always tell people like, don't be a
Yeah.
consumer. Try not to shop and just overbuy because you do realize that you aren't gonna need a
Yeah.
lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And it's just
Mm-hmm.
pointless. So like when we packed up, we had about maybe 4 suitcases, and
Yep.
everybody had their own suitcases of clothes, and that
Yep.
was that. And then I kept having to tell myself like, okay, we're not gonna keep buying new shit, all right?
Yeah.
Tone it
Yeah.
down. I know you
yeah, you really do
excited.
have to get there. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's natural. Being an American, we've been consuming so long. We are the biggest consumers in the
Consumers.
world that we
Yes.
just feel like we have to have all these things. And I think that a lot of people that's watching this, they will realize that you're a hoarder. So
Yes.
even though you might not be a nasty, chaotic hoarder, somebody who
Yeah.
just got all this stuff and it looks,
But we
but you
have
may just
too much
have so
shit.
much shit that you
Yeah.
realize you don't need. So I always like to ask that question to get different perspectives from people as far as
Yeah.
like, what should I stay? What should I keep? Because everybody say
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. I
Yeah.
overpack. I try to think I'm preparing, and then you get to that place and you like, why do I got all of this shit? Like, what
Yeah.
am I
And it's
gonna do
like,
with this?
and the thing is, it's like the realization comes eventually. It might
Yeah.
come right away to where you're like, woo, child. Like, it really depends on your circumstance, though. It's exactly what you said. Like, if you're kind of like moving from a settled place to another place that you're planning on settling in right away, you might not realize it as quickly because it's just like, oh, okay, I'm moving from one place to the next. But when you're on the go, and that's also something to take into consideration too, for all the viewers out there, also determine what type of traveler are you going to be, because some people, they like to float like me. Like my mama been called me her wanderlust child. Like I be outside, like I'm like, oh, okay, I see this place, okay, this is nice, let me go to the next place. Where other people, they might just be like, I need a base, I need to settle down. And you kind of don't realize what type of traveler you are until you're getting out there and you're traveling, you know.
Absolutely.
Because I had to quickly realize as I'm floating from country to country, I'm like, okay, I really just need to settle down somewhere, even if it's just for a few months, have a base, kind of like what you were saying, have a base, and then I could do all my travels from there. But at least I have somewhere where I can keep the majority of my stuff, because it is too time consuming. It is tiring. It is exhausting, honestly, even just for a spiritual level, just carrying all this shit with you all over the place. So it's good to have somewhere to just like put your stuff down, even if you want to be like have severe wanderlust like me. But no matter what, you don't realize, because exactly what you said, Elay, Americans are breaded, like we are bred to consume. And then you're going to a country, more than likely, especially if the American dollar goes far, you feel like you got more money to consume. And then the next thing you know is like, you done got rid of all the stuff that you got rid of in America just to get it all back and more
somewhere else.
In the new country, you know. And then when it's time for you to leave, if you leave, then you're back in the same position, like, oh shit, now I gotta get rid of all this.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those realities, like, I think that I've been in America so long that I got used to having things to the point that not having things, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, it make me kind of nervous. Like, okay, because I always tell my friends, my family, like, eventually I'm going to settle the fuck down, all right? Y'all, I'm not going to be bouncing around forever. Because I be like, I got to, like, have things, like, when you start thinking about what you really want, it's like certain things you know you can't buy. Like, for an example, I would love to have a little sign above my head, right? That's lit up. That's some American shit.
Yeah.
Make it personable, right?
Girl, you know that's an American thing.
You know that's an American, right? And I would love to do that, but how am I going to be carrying that around? So just an example, I would love to have a whole area set up where I can record and it be personable with lights. So that's just an example of what I mean. Like, I can't go too far with that because I know that I'm going to be leaving eventually. So that's just the thing that people should consider as far as, like you said, figuring out what type of traveler you are. I think that was great advice and just great insight and knowledge. Because you never really know until you leave how important things are to you. You'll never know that ahead of time.
Exactly. I actually got a follow-up question for you, but I just also wanted to say another big lesson that I had to quickly learn once I moved abroad is going back to us just talking about just touching on the consumerism that we are taught and like embedded in our systems here in America. Also understand too, like living here in America, you could consume and buy way too much shit, but more than likely you could find somebody else, because again, you're living in a country filled with consumers. So more than likely it's like if you buy too much stuff or you realize you need to get rid of something, you could simply say like, oh, I could put up a yard sale, or I could put this for sale online, or I could because you're dealing with other consumers because we're American. But when you're abroad, everybody's not raised to be consumers like us. So a lot of times, like, we'll think in our head like, oh, I bought too much, it's okay, I could just sell it. But you might be in a country where people don't consume as much as America. A lot of countries don't consume as much as Americans. So then you kind of, where I'm getting at is there's been a lot of times where I had to just give stuff away because we just think, oh, I could just sell it. These people don't, like, it doesn't necessarily, the country or the city or the town you might be in, they might not, remember, you're thinking from an American mindset in USD. They're thinking like, you're in my country and you're dealing with my currency and we don't have that much money. So we can't pay what you paid for this. And a lot of
True.
times you'll have to end up giving stuff away. Not all the time, but a lot of times you'll find I found myself just giving stuff away because, again, it's a different society. It's a different mindset. It's a
It is.
different country.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. Absolutely. Okay, so the thing that I want to go into now is mindset, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when you decide, hey, I want to live abroad, this is not
Mm-hmm.
working for me, what mindset does a person have to be in mentally to make such a drastic, because it indeed
Yeah.
is a drastic decision to
Yeah.
uproot your life in the
It
middle
is.
of your life and go somewhere that's foreign to you, and changing your entire reality around. What
Mm-hmm.
type of mindset does a person have to adopt that thought?
I think for me, it's, and these might conflict, but there's three characteristics, or there's three different mindsets that come to mind. The first one is optimistic. Like, you have to be optimistic, because if you, a lot of times, like especially here in America, it's like we could have very pessimistic mindsets, and rightfully so, just given the
Yes.
society that we grow up in. But you have to have an optimistic mindset, and the reason why I say that is because, as you could also attest to, you're not just uplifting or uprooting yourself from your home country, moving to another country, but you also got to be open to immersing yourself and adapting to a new culture. And a lot of people, that's where a lot of people tend to struggle, because they move abroad expecting an American experience in other countries, and that's just not the case. And a lot of times people become very depressed, and it's like, yeah, because you're trying to force your home culture into another country, and it doesn't work like that. You have to be the one open and willing to immerse yourself into their culture. You are in their country, you are in their city or town. So
Right.
optimism is definitely a big one. Second one is determination. Like, it, because there could be a lot of obstacles that get in your way. Again, you are uprooting your whole life to move to another country. So there's going to be pitfalls. There's going to be short stops. There's going to be shortcomings. And if you're not determined to where it's like, I'm going to do this no matter what, a lot of times the first little sign of inconvenience, people just give up. So if you're serious about it, you have to have a determined mindset. And then the last one is just growth. Like, understand that you will be growing in different ways, and there will be times where you might have to take a step back in order to just learn something, or just realize like certain things just aren't for you, etc. But always be willing to change. Like, just because a lot of people also think just because they move to another country, it's like, okay, I lived in America all my life. I'll use Thailand for example. I'm gonna move to Thailand, and it's Thailand or bust. You might not like fucking Thailand. You just might not like it. So be open and be willing to have that growth mindset, to where it's like, hey, I experienced this country, but it's not for me. I'm gonna go find somewhere else that works for me. But a lot of people also get discouraged about that, because again, how America trains you is like, you're going to do this path and this path only. There's so many different paths you could take in life. So unless
Absolutely.
you're optimistic, unless you're determined, and unless you're coming with a growth mindset, which means sometimes you might just have to release beliefs that you've been taught all your life. A lot of times you might realize some of the beliefs that you've been taught and been embedded in your system just simply isn't true, or only it's true in America, and it doesn't necessarily apply everywhere else. So I would say those three. What about you though?
Um, as far as what?
As far as like
Like,
what mindset, or what
oh,
mindset, the question back for
mindset.
you, that you recommend for travelers?
Well, for me, it's detachment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means detaching from everything that I ever thought to be
Yep.
true about
Yep.
what life should be for me and how I should show up. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to get rid of that shit. None of that shit
Yep.
was true. And I had to
Mm-hmm.
adopt a new way of seeing the world. I had to look at things totally different. I think
Mm-hmm.
that on one of my live streams, I had a guest on there that was from China, and I got real emotional because I
Mm-hmm.
had never talked about how I felt when I sold my house. I had never talked
Mm-hmm.
about it in front of people, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that I never sat and really digested how I really felt because I just got up, did what I had to do, and at that moment, no tears, baby. We moving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got real emotional
Mm-hmm.
because in my family, ownership is power. Like everybody in my family drive nice, live nice. They just that's important to them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So owning a house and selling it, everybody was like, "You nuts." You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, why would you sell your home? Like, this is ownership. This gives you power. This gives you seniority. Like, why would you sell
Mm-hmm.
your home? And that was the first state of detachment that I had to
Yeah.
experience that really showed me, like, okay, the mindset is detachment. You
Yeah.
literally have to let go of everything.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
scary. It
Mm-hmm.
feels, what word would I say? I would say it's scary. I would say it's fast. It just seems like it all happens so
Yeah.
fast. And I would say it's very emotional. It was very
And it's
emotional
like
for
an
me.
ego death.
Yeah, it is. It is because it's
Yeah.
like, damn. I identify as a girl who's been a homeowner since I was 23. Like, I wore that
Mm-hmm.
as a badge
Mm-hmm.
of honor.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm like, that's how I identify. Like, I've been a boss all my life. Like, my
Yeah.
dad set me up to do this. I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wore that, and it made me feel, real big, right?
Yeah.
So when I
Yeah.
sold my house, it was like, damn, you ain't got no house no more. You can't use that shit. So it's like, who are you
Mm-hmm.
now?
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who
That's
are
the
you now?
key.
Because the
Yep.
house, gone.
Yep.
Car, gone.
Yep.
All your little nice shit that you thought you had, right? That was
Yep.
still nice, but still,
Yeah.
it's gone now. So who are you? What's your true identity? So that's what it was for me. That will be the one word, and the
Yeah.
focus for me on mindset will be detachment. And I
Mm-hmm.
think every American need to consider that you have to
Mm-hmm.
detach from everything America has ever taught you, what
Yep.
religion taught you, what your parents taught you, what your friends taught you, anybody that has ever projected who they feel
Yep.
like you are
Mm.
onto you, you gotta strip down naked, okay?
Yes. Yes, you
Nothing,
do.
just you and your
You
birthday
do.
suit, because that's all you have to identify as when when you're stripped, because that's literally what the Most High in the universe is doing, is stripping you. So that's what I would
Yeah.
say it was for me, like very emotional. Even to this day, I've said sometimes like, damn, I don't think I'm gonna own a house again. But don't listen
Mm-hmm.
to me. I changed my mind. I got a Gemini stellium, so two faces. One minute I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna own a house again. Then literally the other day I was like, you know what? I think I might wanna, own some land, like I said before. Going back and forth. But the whole point
Mm-hmm.
of what I'm saying is that the way that we identify in ownership in America is not real. We don't really own that shit no way. I still have to pay um homeowner taxes every year
Yeah,
on
the
some shit
property
that I paid
taxes.
for in cash,
Yep.
which is ridiculous to me. It makes no sense. If I bought this shit in cash, why the fuck am I paying anybody for something that I own, right? It
Yeah.
makes no sense. So we were just manipulated, and we need to let
Mm-hmm.
that go. And the mindset that anybody should have if they want to leave or travel abroad is detachment. Get rid of all of that
Mm-hmm.
shit, the physical
Mm-hmm.
things and the mental things. So that's what
That's
I would
so
say.
true.
That's my take.
No, you are so right. And for those of you watching, if you don't believe anything she said, this is some one of the questions I always, because I had to ask myself this as well. It's like, if you don't believe that we don't attach ourselves to things, ask yourself, who are you? If somebody, imagine somebody asks, who are you? Because you're going to mention the job that you work, the position that you have, the house that you have, the car that you have, the things you possess. But it's like you take all that away, because those are things that just complement who we are. But that doesn't mean that's who we are. So you take all that away and you're like, who are you? A lot of people struggle. I struggled. Sometimes
Yeah.
I still got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I'm attaching myself again to too much shit. So you said a whole word. You said a whole word, sis. Like you really did. So yeah, that's a great one.
It's so
Detachment.
true. It's so true. And I want to tell you that too. Like, I have to, this is the thing. People think
Mm-hmm.
that you don't have these thoughts and you don't go through these things. You're going to still have that thought even
Mm-hmm.
when you're living abroad. Even if life is good, every now and then you're going to go back to, who am I? What's my identity? What do I really have? Even if life is better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. People think that this stuff is going to come revisit. You've been living a whole life for a certain amount of time, your
Yep.
subconscious mind is stuck in that. That don't
Mm-hmm.
change. It takes time. It takes exercise. It takes practices. It takes so many things to reset and rewire the
Yeah,
subconscious. So you're
it
gonna,
does.
that old self, that old identity, I call it identity grief. It
Oh, yes.
revisits often.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna keep
Mm-hmm.
revisiting you, and you're gonna realize that, damn, am I really happy? And you're gonna keep having to ask yourself, am I doing what I really want to do? Am I happy
Yeah.
here? And that's okay. So that takes me into
Mm-hmm.
my next question.
I was like, are we gonna go there? Let's go there.
Yes, yes. Okay, so because we're gonna unpack a few different things. The
Yeah.
first thing I want to say is, out of all of the places that you live, I
Mm-hmm.
want you to give me the experience as a woman living abroad and as a
Mm-hmm.
melanated woman living abroad. What does
Mm-hmm.
that look like as a woman by yourself, traveling the world? You know what I'm saying? Having these new experiences, embarking on these new moments, creating a new identity, creating a new reality. What does that look like?
Mm-hmm. For me, from a high level, just going off the top of my head, it was a very liberating experience, but it definitely came with some growing pains as well. And what I mean by that, it was liberating because, here in America and just living in a very misogynistic society is like you're kind of, a lot of women are taught or made to believe, and through multiple different ways, like it could be through your family, it could be held through society, just living in America, that you can't really succeed without a man. And I always knew throughout my whole life that I could succeed without a man, but just really being able to travel the world, live abroad on my own. I did all this shit on my own. It's very liberating because it's like you can't, if a man or if society or if a system, whatever, tries to tell me like I can't do this by myself, it's like, baby, I done traveled this whole world and lived abroad, around this whole world, been to 6 continents by my goddamn self. You can't tell me I can't do nothing by myself. So that's a big liberation for me, but also too, it made me realize as a melanated woman, and I'm somebody that's very sensitive, and I'm also somebody that's a little early. And what I mean by that is like I'll call out stuff that for the most part, other people will be like, nah, that ain't true, and then it will come to pass for them later on, or everyone else will catch up later on, and then they come back and be like, oh no, girl, you was right. And I'm like, yeah, don't be trying to gaslight me. I know what I'm talking about. So what I mean by that is, as a melanated woman, I realized just how much racism is prevalent throughout this whole world. A lot of times we think, oh, this is just the American thing. I can't speak for you, Elay, but for me, before I moved abroad, it's like there was black women or women of color, etc., like over in Europe, and they were like, oh, we don't have these problems, like we're open to interracial dating and marriage and blah blah blah. But the racism, that's more of an American thing. No, baby, racism is everywhere. It's worldwide, and it happens in different layers. If you get what I'm saying. And let me give you a quick example. When I was over in Europe, there is a lot of racism in Europe. I mean, we all know that, but there's a lot of racism in Europe, but it's different looking at it from a Black American woman's standpoint, because I would come across people to where I could tell, and I experienced racism in every country that I lived in, and sometimes even from other Black people, but just to be honest with you.
No, truly.
But I could tell people were getting ready to treat me like shit because they assumed that I was, from Africa, like somewhere from Africa. And the moment that I opened up my mouth and I started talking and they heard an American accent, they were like, American, hi. And it's like, nah, you was getting ready to treat me like shit because you thought that I was from wherever you thought I was from, or you thought that I was a Moor, or you thought that I came from Central Africa, wherever you thought I came from. But you're only treating me this way because I'm American. You're only treating me with a little bit of respect because I'm American. So that is a big reality check that I was not expecting. I also realized that there's a lot of kind people out here, but then there's also people that aren't so kind as well. And you learn that in America, but you especially gets reinforced abroad. Another thing that I learned was kind of like what we just talked about, detachment. I had to detach myself from everything that I knew in America, because the fact of the matter was I wasn't in America anymore. And there was quite a few times throughout my travels, although I had a great time, I'm like, I could be in a new country or wherever I was living at and having a great time. Like you said, it's kind of like an identity grief, because you're coming across different experiences and you're like, well, back in America, I would have, but you have to remind yourself, I'm not in America anymore. And you're stripped from everything. So it's like, okay, who am I now, since I'm in a country where I can't use my past accomplishments or my past experiences to really like help establish an identity here. I got to kind of start from scratch. I got to look from within. And that could be very liberating, but at the same time, it could be a little depressing, at times. And a lot of times we think that we're homesick, and we are homesick, but what you're really experiencing is, as you just mentioned, identity grief. So I learned a lot. I hope I'm answering your question. I learned a lot
Absolutely.
when I was abroad. I learned I wasn't going to like every single country that I was in. There was also countries that I visited and I'm like, I could absolutely live here. And there was countries that I lived in to where I'm like, yeah, this is cool to visit, but I don't want to live here ever again. So I experienced a lot of ups. I did experience some downs. I got robbed when I was abroad. And yeah, we could get into that in a second, but overall the whole experience was a beautiful experience, because that's just also human life. Like, we have our ups, we have our downs. You learn your lessons. You're going to bump your head sometimes. You're going to have some really great victories. But I just learned overall how the world works. I learned overall like how deeply rooted racism is, like even visiting the pyramids in Egypt, even looking at some of the statues that they have out in Cambodia, how much they hide black excellence, and like they don't want us to learn that. And it's just overall, it's a very humbling experience, but it's also a beautiful experience. I made friends around the whole world, and I feel like I know, not even feel, I know I am a fuller person and a more confident person and a more rooted and grounded person from having lived abroad.
I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
let's unpack when you got robbed before we go on to our next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I want to bring awareness to things like this because, like I said, my whole point of everything that I do is I like to show all sides of life abroad.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
people romanticize it so much that when you talk about the realities of it, I get so much pushback. And I was like, okay, I see that this is what y'all love to argue about in the comments. So I'm about to start making a whole bunch more triggering content with that because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I need to trigger y'all. Y'all need to be triggered because y'all leave one plantation, let's just call it what it is,
Yep.
and,
Yep.
and, and you want to go to another place where you feel like somebody's gonna save you instead of
Mm-hmm.
checking it at the door and realizing that it's you versus you.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we have to stop romanticizing growing pains and real,
Mm-hmm.
true realities of things because I'm not saying that, um, that we're not enjoying this or that we don't
Yeah.
love it. I had to, sometimes I try to be careful with how I word things because
Mm-hmm.
this mouth is, okay, a potty mouth.
Girls, talk your shit, because I'm a
I be
talking
trying to
too.
catch, I be trying to catch myself sometimes. And I be like, okay, love. I mean, you come on, you a host. You got to show up. All right. But
Yeah.
sometimes I go there, but I'm just
No, but we're
passionate.
gonna have a real,
Um,
let's go. You already know we here.
yeah,
So let's have the real conversation.
yeah.
Let's
Because I
talk
get,
about it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get passionate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this isn't a beautiful experience. But what I'm saying is that let's be real about how conditioned we are and how hard it is to figure out a new way of life and how
Yeah.
to identify who you are in this new reality, in this new
Mm-hmm.
version of self. And that's
Yeah.
the thing that I feel like people run away from and that they don't want to talk about. So I like to talk about the pros, the cons, the good, the ugly. At least give people an idea of what to walk into because we can
Yeah.
easily say, which I really don't like this specifically about melanated Americans. Well, that was in my experience. We are so dismissive.
I'm so sick of that narrative.
We
Like
are so
I
dismissive.
hate how many people try to dismiss other people's experiences. Like the shit can't happen to them.
And then it does, but they not gonna talk
Mm-hmm.
about it because they embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
we,
silent.
yeah, we have adopted this thought that like, oh, I want to be liked. So anything that's challenging, people don't want to show. And
Mm-hmm.
what we fail to realize is that the things that people do not like that we talk about or that we discuss, or even just with us, being people in general that people don't like about us, those are insecurities within them. And I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like when we have these discussions, it's very important to unpack everything so that people can see that there's all sides and they can decide if this is really for them. Because I promise you, a lot of people have listened and they have watched and they have realized, baby, that's not for me. I'm going to stay here a little longer and figure it out. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
reality. So
Yeah.
let's unpack when you rock. So where were you and what
Mm-hmm.
happened?
Okay. I'm going to say a quick little caveat before I go into that story, because this is very, very important for anybody who travels extensively around the world, or just travel extensively, period, or you plan on
Mhm.
moving abroad and like venturing off to different countries. Okay. When I first left to move abroad, and as I was going throughout the world, I didn't even make 6 months yet. I was in Egypt. I met this man, white man. He's like a brother to me. But he asked me straight up, he's like, have you been robbed yet? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm like, what? I was like, no, I'm not gonna get robbed. And he was like, I'm just gonna tell you, because he was older than me. He's like, I've been around this whole world. And he's like, and something that I need you to realize is the more you travel this world, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will eventually get robbed. And he was like, so I just want to prepare you, when that experience happens, don't let it deter you. Now, like what we was just talking about, especially Americans, we are very cocky ass people. He's American too. Very cocky ass people. So I'm listening and I'm like, but in the back of my mind, I was like, that ain't gonna happen to me. So exactly what you said, like people always say, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't dismiss them. I just said in my head, it's not gonna happen to me, but until it fucking happens. So now let's get into how it happened. I was living in Colombia, Medellin, Colombia. It was July 5th, so the day after the 4th. And I was there maybe just leading up to a month, right? And
Mhm.
I wasn't although I was meeting a bunch of different people. I met quite a few. There's a building American expat community in Colombia, in Medellin, more specific. Although I was meeting people and I was going out, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I wasn't having the best time in Colombia at that point. I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna stay here for the whole 3 months, like I said. I ended up but just immersing myself. I'm like, okay, let me sign up for CrossFit. I actually was looking to move rooms. I was renting a room. I wasn't really liking where I was living, so I was meeting up with a friend, with a colleague, to go look at another room. I was leaving CrossFit, and one thing that I got told the moment I moved to Colombia is like, do not have no valuables out and about, like visible, because like my phone, for example, they're like, your phone could feed a family for a whole year, maybe a year and a half.
What?
So I said, okay, so I was walking from my CrossFit gym to go meet up at this popular metro, to go meet up with my friend, my colleague, to go look at a room. Now I had my backpack on, and as I'm walking, I literally just reach over to check my phone. Like I have it hidden, but I reach over to check my phone. Next thing I know, this guy pulled up, a Colombian man pulled up on a motorcycle, and he's talking super super fast in Spanish, and I'm like, what is he talking about? Blah 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 blah. And then he has this paper bag, and he's like pointing it at me, but he's shaking, and I'm like, it took me a quick second to realize what was going on, but then I realized, I'm like, yo, I think this nigga about to rob me. He's trying to rob me. So
Right,
then
like,
I'm like, the fuck is because Americans, we're very cocky. So I'm like, hold the fuck up. I'm like, is he trying to rob me? So he just kept pointing, like gesturing towards where I had my phone, because I literally put my phone, like, it was kind of like I had like a little side pocket. He was pointing exactly to where I had my phone. And I'm like, how the fuck did he see I'm thinking this after the fact. Like, how the fuck did he see me even glance down? Because I did it so slick. At least I thought I did. But once I realized that he was basically asking me for my phone, I was just like, I ain't gonna hold y'all. For a quick second, I thought about fighting this nigga because I was like, okay, how do I know he got a gun? I'm just seeing this paper bag, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I really need my phone. I can't give you my phone. So then he's like, as he's still talking hella fast in Spanish and he's shaking, but then he puts the bag up to my head. So once he did that, I said, one thing I remember, both of my parents are Army vets. And one thing that my dad used to always tell me, he's like, nobody, the most dangerous person in the world is somebody that's scared. Like, if you see that they're scared, leave them alone because that person will kill you.
That's good
Like,
advice.
yeah, like that person will literally kill you. Like a lot of times bullies or people, like when you're getting in confrontation with somebody and you see someone is scared or they're like, I don't want to do this, I don't a lot of times you'll be like, oh no, I'm gonna really fuck you up. No, that person could really end up killing your ass because that's just how scared they are. So once he did that and he pointed it at my head, I just had to be real. I said, Tam, your life is not worth this goddamn phone. You don't know if this is a real gun or not, but we ain't trying to find out. So just give him the goddamn phone. So I gave him the phone, and then once he took the phone, he tried to drive off, almost fell off his bike. Now, that man fell off his bike, man, I was going to go get my goddamn phone. But God let him, he quickly gathered himself about. He kept looking back at me, I guess, to see if I was going to run after him. And then he eventually ended up just taking off. And this was in broad daylight, y'all. This was like,
oh, I was just about to ask you. So
yeah,
this was
like
so nobody
four in the afternoon.
Nobody came to help. Nobody was around.
Well, you also got to understand the history of Colombia, more specifically Medellin. Remember, Medellin is where Pablo Escobar is from. So it's like a lot of them still have that mindset. Like there used to be so many murders back in the day, like in the 80s, especially with if I'm not mistaken, the 80s, etc., when Pablo Escobar was like alive and well. So a lot of them, they don't get involved in crime because they know like they know like their life is not, they know that they could lose their life at any moment and ain't nobody else gonna blink, So it's like the other people were seeing me get robbed. Like I said, this is about 4 PM, y'all, but it's just like, what you gonna do? You ain't got no gun. What you gonna come over and shoot him for me? Like a lot of people just watch from a distance.
That sucks.
So I ended up having to, I still walked over to meet up with my friend / colleague. I let them know like I got robbed, and we ended up going to the police station. Now I knew the police station wasn't going to do anything. The only reason why I wanted to make a police report is because my phone, I had a Sprint phone back in the States, and I knew that if I wanted to report my phone lost or, basically report the robbery, I needed a police report. So that's the only reason why I went to the police. I did not expect them to do anything. Like they already told me by the time we went to the police, which was immediately after, they were like, oh, your phone's already broken into 1 million pieces sold in the black market. Like that's how serious it is when you're living in other countries. But the caveat about this is I still stayed in Colombia afterward. I did not leave. And I ended up having the time of my life just after that robbery. I don't know why. I think I just went into this, okay, the worst that could happen happened. So let me just move forward. Let me not let this taint my experience. And I also knew if I left right away, I was never going to come back to Colombia. A big stereotype or a big misconception is I had so many people back home in the States. They were like, oh my God, I'm so scared for you. Come home, come home, come home. And I'm like, I'm not coming home. And they're like, why? I'm like, America is the most violent country in the fucking world. Like we could get robbed. You could get robbed at any minute in America. Hell, you could get killed for the color of your damn skin in America. Like, at the end of the day, this, unfortunately, is life. It's a part of life. Like, some people gonna get robbed, some people not. And the fact that, or other terrible things happen to certain people, those things might not happen to others. So I stayed because I said, I'm not going to leave with a negative taste in my mouth of Colombia. I still recommend Colombia to this day. I've helped guide other people to move to Colombia. It's still a great country. It's just unfortunately life happened.
Mm. That's so interesting. Okay, okay. That takes me into our
Hmm.
next question. Out of all of the countries that you lived in and experienced, which one would you say will be your number one, your most favorite, and then give us your least and why?
Okay, my number one. I have pros and cons for all the countries I lived in, but my number one would be Vietnam. I had a great time in Vietnam.
Hmm.
My second one, surprisingly, a lot of people will be surprised about this. I actually really enjoyed living in Prague. So that would be my number two. My number three would be Medellin, Colombia. And Prague and Medellin are kind of like neck and neck with each other. Like one could be two and three. You could really interchange it. Like I feel the same about both of them. I had great times in both. But my last one would be Cape Town, South Africa. I think if I was to ever move back to South Africa, I would probably live in Sandston, right outside of Joburg,
Hmm.
or yeah, like I would live like right outside the vicinity of Joburg. But I do not like. I don't care. Cape Town is a beautiful city, one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to in my life.
Hmm.
I do not like the people in Cape Town. I do not like the
You're
people in
not the
Cape
first
Town.
person I've heard say that. That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
A lot of people they say that it's majority Caucasians, which I was kind of shocked when I heard that. But they said that
Yes
it's
and
that
no.
they actually it's a lot like they were telling me that the racism is a little extreme there and it's not
It
really
is.
an African experience. And I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell
It's
do that supposed to mean?
it's I'll break it down for you real fast. It's weird because okay, you know the artist Tyler, the one who did Water or whatever, the Water song.
Hmm.
She's from Johannesburg, South Africa. So when she identifies as colored, which here in America we would identify as biracial. A lot of Americans got very, very offended when she's like, "I'm not black, I'm colored." Because that's a very negative connotation out here in America. But in South Africa, that is recognized as a race. You have Caucasians. The Caucasians, you have the Afrikaans. Like Elon Musk is an Afrikaan. That means that their family came from Holland, from the Netherlands. And they migrated and dominated certain regions in South Africa, so they call themselves Afrikaans. And then you got the black South Africans, the ones that are like the native black South Africans. Of course, you got the Zulu nation that's more down in Durban, the Durban area from the Zulu tribe. But then you have what's called coloreds. So coloreds is biracial here in America. But in Cape Town, you got what's called Cape colored. And that's a different type. That's a different, I'm not trying to offend nobody. I'm just being real from my experience. That's a different group of people. Like, it's it's a lot of stuck upness. It's a lot of how can I say it, a lot of times you'll notice the coloreds, biracial, in South Africa, but more specifically in Cape Town, they ride the fence. So when they really want to when they're around Afrikaans, the white South Africans, they really want to assimilate themselves with the white South Africans, so they'll treat black people very, very poorly. But then if they're around like the black South Africans, they'll try to integrate there too. And it's very, very weird. But I actually, while I was in South Cape Town more specifically, I experienced more racism and more prejudiceness from black South Africans than any other black South Africans, than the Cape Coloreds. And then I would say I actually didn't really run into a lot of issues with the Afrikaans. And I think it's just because, again, I'm American. So it's kind of like, oh, cool, blah, 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 blah. But the black South Africans in Cape Town, I think that they look at black Americans like, oh, you're pretending to be black American. You're really a black South African that's just trying to act like you're American. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, so I came across a lot of those experiences when I was in Cape Town more specifically. as you know, they overcame apartheid not too long ago. So there's still a lot of traces of, that system, systemic, racist systemic system out there. All like it's very, very prevalent still in Cape Town. But like I said, overall, as far as visiting, chef's kiss. Like Cape Town is beautiful. Just living there, the more I started to, as I continued to live there, the more depressed I was getting, because I'm like, what the fuck is going on with these interactions I'm having? So it was just kind of like that's why I say I would rate that last. But again, go visit, have a great time. Some people might disagree with me, but that's my experience. But also speaking to other foreigners, whether they were American or British, etc. Oh, that's another thing too. Everybody gonna tell you that they lived in Britain for 3 years. Everybody gonna tell you that they lived in Britain for 3 years. But as far as like linking up with other foreigners, and I'm like, yo, this is my experience. Is this y'all? They're like, oh my God, I thought I was the only one feeling this way. I've had friends come visit me in South Africa, more specifically Cape Town, and they were like, girl, I got to get the fuck up out of here because I don't know what's going on down here. And I'm like, yeah, definitely a different culture. It's a different vibe, but you're dealing with racism on it's a different front, if that makes sense.
Okay, when you say Vietnam was number one, give us life in Vietnam as a woman, traveler, and just adapting to the culture in Southeast Asia. Actually, shit, Vietnam is kind of overriding Thailand right now. I know everybody is Thailand, but I'm not gonna lie, Vietnam is coming pressure. Vietnam is like right behind Thailand when it comes to one of the number one destinations. Okay, so
yeah.
What would you say? How would you explain your experience? Because you said that was number one, so you really enjoyed living there.
Yes. So Vietnam got racism too, but for me, I just felt every day felt like a weekend. Like I had a full-time job teaching English as a foreign language. I worked for this company or language school called VUS, and it was great. Like as far as they took care of us as employees, full-time English teaching, at least when I was living there, 20 to 22 hours a week. So it's not the 40 hours a week that you work here in America to be considered full-time. I was getting paid a salary of like $2,000 minimum a month. Also understand Vietnamese dong, which is their official currency, the US dollar goes extremely far in America. And I was getting paid the $2,000 USD minimum per month just to teach. So the cost of living is extremely cheap. I had like a studio apartment where I had housekeeping come 5 days a week. They would do my laundry. They would clean my whole apartment. They would like make sure everything was copacetic, and all that came included in my rent. My rent was about $350 a month. That's including the electricity, because I did have to pay for electricity. So that ranged about $50 US dollars a month. All this is in USD. All the figures I'm putting is in USD. I rented a motorbike, which is the main form of transportation. That was at $50 a month. Every day I felt so relaxed. My nervous system was regulated. Every day felt like a weekend day, to where even the days that I was working, it wasn't hard. During our breaks, I would be messaging my friends, like, what bar are we going to tonight? Like, what district are we going to be at tonight, etc. So I just that's why I actually decided to start my blog, Lover of Shades. So it just was, as far as my nervous system, as far as the proximity, I could get over to Thailand fast. I could get over to Cambodia fast. I could hop over to Malaysia. I could go to Australia. It's very accessible. And also living in Southeast Asia, as you know, because you live in Southeast Asia, it's a very tropical climate. So that was something that I was not prepared for, because I moved to Vietnam in November. And the moment I got off that plane, I felt like I was suffocating, because that's how humid it was. But yeah, my nervous system was completely regulated. I felt so at ease. I did not have to worry about crime, and that's a big misconception that Americans have about Vietnam, because we went to war with them many moons ago. Like America will paint it as Vietnam is like a very violent country. The most you got to worry about in Vietnam, at least while I was living there, was somebody driving on a motorbike trying to snatch your phone. But like if you heard about somebody getting stabbed, getting shot, it was like, whoa, that person's crazy. You didn't really hear about it like that. So I got the chance to just to be myself. I met a lot of cool people there, and I was able just to kind of just ground myself and figure out what I wanted to do. And I did it. Did whatever it is that I wanted. So that's why I would say it was my favorite. It's the city life. Like Saigon is definitely a big city. So you get the city life, but you could easily leave out and go to Da Nang. You could go to Hanoi. You could go to a Halong Bay. You could go to a whole bunch of different places and like get out the city if you wanted to. The only thing is they had terrible pollution. So like that's why by the time COVID came around, I didn't really trip, because we all wore face masks in Vietnam just because the pollution was heavy in Saigon. I'm not sure if they still have that issue now, but yeah, that's the reason why I say it's number one for me.
Okay, I love it. I love that. I definitely can agree with you. It's so crazy because no matter what experiences I have had here in Thailand, I always say I feel safe. That's one thing that I will give to Southeast Asia. And I hear this from a lot of other people that lives in Southeast Asia. They feel safe.
Yes.
Now, I'm not discrediting anybody who have had other experiences. But for me, especially being a mother, like my kids this late, they'll be like, Mommy, can we walk through the neighborhood? We'll literally go for a walk right now. It's 11:22. As my neighborhood is quiet, it's chill, it's laid back, and like even I think I was walking to the airport one day. I had to do something. It was something I had to do. Oh, I was picking up a package.
Yeah.
And I remember I was recording. I was like, that's one thing I could say. In Southeast Asia, you feel safe. That's one thing I could say that I would not take away from them. Out of everything else, they might be a little colorist. And they might be some other things. But you feel safe. Ain't nobody harming you. And I think as Americans, we automatically like look for that. Like I still got my kids prepared just in case. Just in case anything happened. We in that mode, right? Because we come from being in that mode, happen to be in that mode and live in that mode. But I truly feel like you can like relax. And I do agree with you when you say every day feels like the weekend. Like it's like you wake up every day ready for a new adventure.
Exactly.
And I thought I was the only person that felt that way. But I can agree with that because that's actually how I feel. Like every day, I'm just waking up like, what do I want to do today? I want to like I have a routine.
So good,
I have a routine, but still at the same time, with the routine and all, you like, what do I want to do today? And then I just feel like the days end so softly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give us 3 pros and 3 cons with living abroad? If you can't do 3, that's cool. Just give us how many you can, but just pros and cons of, living abroad.
I would say for pros, learning new cultures, seeing sites that you've always dreamed about, and then also adopting a different way of life. But what I mean by that is like, and maybe you could attest to this, when I was in Asia, but period abroad, but especially in Asia, it's like I realized how overworked Americans are. Like we work to live where they live to work. It's like they're like, oh, it's cool. We're just chilling. Like we're going to do our job. But once the job's over, we just chilling. Where in America, you hustle 24/7. So I would say those are the 3 pros. The 3 cons is racism. Right? Because you still going to deal with racism, y'all. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. You going to deal with racism. It's just in varying levels. So racism, misogyny, because you still will deal with that in a lot of countries too. And then also, how can I say this? Stereotypes, because there's a lot of stereotypes that we've learned as Americans that we have to debunk. But then there's also a lot of countries that have certain stereotypes about Americans, and it's like you're all. I can't speak for you, but I felt like I was always having to break down a stereotype, like moving to certain countries or going to certain cities. It's like, well, you know what they say about you Americans, and it's like, oh, here we go again. So I would say that.
Okay. I love those. That's so true. Definitely stereotypes. Definitely stereotypes.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question that I want to ask you is if anybody came to you and they were like, "Hey Tam, like I want to live abroad. I want to travel abroad. I
hmm
want to live abroad. What advice would you give me to get my journey started?" What would you tell that person?
So I actually would tell them, number one, what type of life do you want to live? And not base it on how you're currently living. What type of life do you want to live? Because if a lot of times we're struggling here in America, and it's like, I don't want you to take that struggle mindset or your struggle life and go move abroad, because what the hell is the point of moving abroad then if you're going to go abroad to go struggle and experience the same thing? So what type of life do you want to live? um, Being very realistic about it. I would also encourage them to start mastering detachment and getting themselves prepared. Like, stop over consuming here,
Mhm.
stop spending on every single little thing. And also, at, the biggest thing is the mindset. Like, how do you feel about, like, just really understanding what their perception is on moving abroad, what they're looking to accomplish, and what are they willing to do to get that type of lifestyle? Because a lot of times people have so many people romanticize living abroad, and don't get it wrong, living abroad is great, but you also have to be realistic. And what ends up happening for a lot of expats is they'll move abroad and like they romanticize it so much that when it doesn't live up to their expectations, because they don't really know what they're stepping into, they'll get extremely discouraged, and then they'll just kind of like go into depression mode. So what are your true expectations, and where are you at with mindset? Because mindset, if you're telling yourself now that you can't do it or you can't afford it, or you're not going to be able to figure it out, you're going to go abroad and have all those experiences come true because you already spoke it into existence. So where are you at with mindset and really making sure that they get their mindset right?
That's important. That's key.
Yeah.
I love that. That's definitely key. I feel like that's everyone's biggest question. Like, what should I do? How should I start? And it's like everyone's different. But take advice, but with a
hmm
grain of salt, and also pay attention to that person and see if they align with who you are,
Yeah,
so that you can make sure that the advice that they're giving aligns with who you are. You get what I'm saying?
exactly. Absolutely. I want to ask you that too. Like, what would you give? Because I mean, you give the advice all the time. So, I've already heard some of your advice, but like, just for those watching, like, what advice would you give?
The advice that I would give is, first, you have to figure out how do you want to live your life for the next 20 plus years.
Yeah. hmm
Do you want to be more like of a nomad? You just want to
hmm
live like a basic life where the quality of life is really good, but it's not really high in standards, which you got to
Yep.
like have a big house and all that, but you're eating good, you're happy,
hmm
you're content, you just got your laptop, your backpack. Or do you want to live abroad and take advantage of the fact that you can create a very high scale, a very high end lifestyle
Yeah.
abroad? And you have to decide how you're going to create those things. Like, how do you want to live? I think that people do not think about how they want to live. They're just thinking, oh, I want to get away. And I think that escapism and fear is total, like, those are like terrible reasons to live abroad. Like, if
hmm
you want to live abroad because you're trying to get away or you scared of you and fear, I just feel like that's terrible. I feel
Yeah.
like you should want to leave because the level, the life, the way that you want to live and the life that you desire no longer aligns with the vibration and the frequency that America gives. That's where I
Yep.
was. I was
Yep.
like, life not like bad. I wouldn't say I hated it,
hmm
because I've always been a hustler. I always did things I loved. And like, I'm just a person that loved life, period, because I beat death
Yep.
3 times. So like, I don't take life for granted because I could have been gone three times ago, right?
hmm
To say that though, I realized that how I wanted to live no longer aligned with what America has to offer.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm gonna live in America, I gotta be wealthy. If I ever go back to America, I will go back very wealthy. I don't
hmm
feel like middle class and lower class matter. It's
Yeah.
either green or nothing.
Yeah.
And I
I
know that
feel
a lot
you.
of people probably won't agree with that. But that's real because I know
Mm-hmm.
so many people that work 2, 3 jobs and they still struggling. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that shit. That's weird to me. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
living and you getting by, but barely. So, like, who want to live like that? So I
Exactly.
got to this point where I was like, okay, I can live better abroad. Like I
Yes.
started realizing, and that's why, like yesterday, I did a live stream where I taught how to build wealth for expats. Because what
Mm-hmm.
people don't know is when I made the decision to live abroad, I started really honing in on building my generational wealth.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have more money and more mental space to think about the future that you can
Yeah.
actually prep and start building. You can start investing. You can start really honing in on the things you're good at and benefiting from it and making money to
Mm-hmm.
save and really doing you, right? You can't
Yep.
do that in America because you too busy trying to make sure you eat, you got gas, the
Mm.
lights is on, so you can't do those
Inflation.
things. Exactly, inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So living abroad actually is great if
Mm-hmm.
you want to experience wealth for the first time. If you've
Yeah.
never been able to really live your dream life, let that shit go and
Mm-hmm.
start a new journey. And it's gonna be a little
Yeah.
scary, it's gonna be a little rocky, but I feel like fear is a great indication that you should go for it. Even when
Yeah.
we're in fear, we should still execute,
Yep.
because all fear is the nervous system saying, hey, we never did this shit before, why you keep introducing
Mm-hmm.
me to this?
Yep.
Even if you got me in some chaos, I'm used to chaos because that's how you trained me. Now you
Yep.
gonna take me into the unknown. I prefer the chaos over the unknown. That's how the nervous
Mm-hmm.
system feel. But
Yep.
in the end, it'll thank you once it adapts.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's what I would say. You got to figure out the type of life that you want to live. I feel like that's very important. Before you
Mm-hmm.
start putting all this shit together, looking for countries, trying to worry about plane tickets, you really, really, really have to do that. And then you got to start um, reprogramming yourself.
Yep.
I think that that's really important too. Rewiring yourself. I preach that. You need to rewire before you move.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
if you doing it while you moving, that's cool. But it's better to start beforehand because then it won't hit you so hard. That
Exactly.
grief that I talk about, that
Mm-hmm.
shit, I had you own it. Like for the first time since I've been living abroad, I went through that the other day.
Mm.
I went through
Mm-hmm.
it the other day, and I thought about making a video, but I was like, man, I don't want to be bothered. Shit, let me have this moment to myself. But it was
But that's what
like,
people need to
yeah,
see.
sometimes they
Yeah.
do. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
one of my faves, my sis Miss Lonnie. I don't know if you know about Lonnie, but she's
Mm-mm.
on she was in Bali.
Okay.
Okay, so if
Okay.
anybody, she's been a guest on the podcast, guys. You guys can find her on TikTok. But she always talked about things like that on her platform, and she literally just made a post the other day and was like, "It's cool if we share our content, but we still need to hold space for us
Of
and
course.
our
Yeah. Of course.
experiences while
Yeah.
we experiencing this, because everybody want to make travel abroad content. I'm not against it, but that's why I prefer to highlight other people. I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
have time for that. I'm too sensitive, people too
Yeah.
opinionated. So I share when I really feel inspired to share, but it depends on my
Yeah.
mood.
Yeah. Of course.
But we need to take time to experience it instead of just trying to show up for the internet and show people that, oh, I'm free. I left America. I'm living. Da, da, da. We need to hold space for ourselves, and that's what I did instead of jumping on my phone making a video.
Mm-hmm.
I was real down.
Yeah.
And even though life is beautiful and things is great, I was just like, do I even like fucking Thailand? Like, do I like
Mm-hmm.
any of you motherfuckers? Like,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, that's what I was thinking. And
Yeah.
then I was
Yeah.
like, and then I
But it's
just started
real.
bitching. Yeah, then I started bitching. I call it bitching. I'm tired of the food. I'm tired of this. I miss driving. Like I just went through, but I allowed myself to go through it. And then I called my grandma. I called my family. Family just gonna be like, "Girl, that's why you need to get your ass back to the States, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I woke up and was like, "Who the hell was I yesterday?" Because I
Mm-hmm.
never want to see her again.
Yeah. But it's it's
It was
it's a
just
real
kind of
thing.
crazy.
It's a real thing. Or you'll come across like inconvenience and you're just like, see, this is why I need to take my ass back home. And then like you said, you wake up the next day and you're like, woo child, that was ghetto. Okay, let's move on.
Let's get back. Let's get back. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was a moment, and I feel like we should allow ourselves to have those moments. It's okay. People scared of those moments. They want to hide it. They think that's a negative thing. Like, no. Nothing is wrong with having that moment. And yeah, I might make a video now that I think about it, because people want to run away from that. And it's okay to have that moment to reevaluate if you're really happy. That's the whole point of you being on the journey. Because you can get
Yep.
up and go wherever you want to go. That's the freedom that you
Mm-hmm.
now have that nobody is thinking about. You already did the
Yeah.
big part. You left America, you did your thing, so you already did it. So
Mm-hmm.
now you just have to figure out where you really want to be. Boots on the ground, have your boots locked in somewhere that you really love. So
Exactly.
that's like my take on it. So do you
Okay.
have any last words that you want to share with anyone that's watching this episode?
Yes, I have one more piece of advice, and then I'll share my last words. One more piece of advice that I also need people to realize, like before making that move abroad, is also being realistic about, do you have anything, any considerations, anything that you need to take into consideration. So for more specifically, like health issues, because sometimes you could probably attest to this. You've probably seen it so many times. If you need certain medications, if you have certain health conditions, whether it's mental health, physical ailment, whatever it is, understand that every country might not be able to accommodate your disability, your condition, whatever it is. So be very realistic, because what happens is a lot of times people will look at podcasts, they'll look on TikTok, they'll look on Instagram, and they're looking at like, oh, Bali's great, Thailand's great, Vietnam's great, South Africa's great, whatever. But can these countries that you're interested in moving to, if you do have a medical condition, whether it's mental, physical, etc., are they going to be able to accommodate you? Because not all these places are created equal when it comes to healthcare or when it comes to mental health services, etc. And a lot of times I think people marry themselves to the idea of wherever they like, I really want to go here, but like that place just might not be able to accommodate what you actually need. For example, a lot of times people don't realize, like, there's certain medications or prescriptions we get prescribed out here in America that might be illegal in other countries, and you might absolutely need that prescription, but you gonna end up getting arrested and sent to jail or to prison, or even worse if you move to other countries with those same medications. So being realistic about stuff like that, because I think people will just be like, I have to make it work, but it's at your own detriment. So just be careful about that. Um, as far as last words, just wanting to say, number one, girl, I just want to thank you so much for this conversation. You know, I always love chatting with you and having our little talks. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you having me on the show. I just want to say, for anybody that's looking to move or thinking about taking that leap abroad, take it seriously and bet on yourself. You know, here in America, or, you know, in a lot of westernized societies, you have to understand, they need you here so they could continue to thrive as a system, as you know, literally an operating system, whether it's capitalism, misogyny, whatever, patriarchy, whatever it is. For you, you get one life. This is the only life we have. Make the best of it. You're not a tree. You don't have to stay in the same spot. If it's not working for you anymore, if wherever you live is not working for you anymore, look and place that bet on yourself and try to make that leap. And if you need help, I also offer services just like Elay does. You could contact me at Lover of Shades. I actually help. I'm a relocation travel coach. So I do help others, more specifically women, move abroad. So I can help you get started with that. But my main thing is be audacious. Be audacious and go live your life. And if certain things don't work out or it's not like the way that you think, you could always continue to move forward, and you can move back, you can move to another country, do whatever it is you need to do. But it's very much possible, and you absolutely could do it. And don't let anybody discourage you, because you will get a lot of people trying to discourage you, but they're just projecting onto you. So you do what's best for your life, because this is the only life you have.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we expect for you? Because we know that you're back in the States now. So what can we expect from you in the future? Because I know a lot of people are going to want to ask, like, okay, she's back in the States. What made her go back? What's her plans? So what would you say?
I'm actually right now I've been tapped in from last year, looking to move abroad again. am trying to wrap up a few things here in the States before I do, and also just kind of figure out where exactly I want to go, and looking at the current relations that the US have with the countries that I'm considering. So I'm doing it in a little bit in layers this time around. I also got added responsibilities versus what I had back when I first moved abroad. But I am definitely going to be out in them international streets again, y'all. I still do travel. Even here from America to go into other countries. But yes, I will be looking to become an expat again. The timeline is to be determined, but I am looking to make that happen soon, within the next few years. And also for me, I started a business to where I help others. I really enjoy helping others like move abroad, get their plan together, figure out what exactly that they're looking for. So you could also expect that from me. I'm actually restarting my podcast. I have a podcast also on YouTube. It's called Shady Nomad. So I also interview other expats or other extensive travelers and get their perspectives on things. So I actually want to invite you to my podcast, Elaine, so we can like continue our conversation. And yeah, just go ahead and follow me on social media. I could be found on all handles at Lover of Shades. Check me out and stay on the journey. And I'm going to be dropping tips and tricks. And if you need further assistance, feel free to reach out to me. I have courses, and I also do personal consulting from time to time. So just hit me up, y'all.
All of Tam's information will be in the bio. In the description, we'll have the links to her pages and also her website. So if you're interested, you guys can go to the website. Also follow her on her platforms. Everything is listed in the description below. Thank you so much for taking the time out to chat. And I really, truly enjoyed you. I'm so happy that we connected. You guys can be looking for some live streams soon, because we're going to do some live streams together as well, guys. Yeah. So definitely make sure you follow Tam. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every Thursday, we drop a new episode, y'all. Same time, 11:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love y'all. Thank you to everybody that continuously support the brand and that engages, that supports, that follows, that comments. Love y'all to bunches, and I will see y'all next Thursday. Peace. Thank you for watching the full episode. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys next Thursday with the new episode, new energy, new guest, same time. Peace.